Hey guys, welcome to the Biz Show. I'm very delighted to be able to make this video for you. If you're an international student anywhere in the world and you're thinking about coming to the US, the process can be challenging, but it's possible and it's doable. Today actually I'm pleased to be at Auburn University. My friend Kipron actually goes to Auburn University and he's also an international student, and I'm also gonna bring him in the video and he's gonna tell you the process of how he came here. I know most of you are wondering, how can I be able to afford school in the US? School in the US can actually be very expensive, especially for international students, because you have to pay an out-of-state fees. But the thing is, the first thing you do, you can be able to contact the school officials, the admissions or the international student office. After you decide the school that you want to go to, because every school actually awards general scholarships for everybody in the school, whether you're an international student or you're American. And actually most of these scholarships go unrewarded because most Americans don't apply for them. So if you apply, you might get a chance, and they have criteria, like they might say you have to have 3.0 GPA, you must be in the School of Engineering, you must be in the School of Mathematics, you must be a business student. So all these criteria, if you meet them, you may be able to be awarded the scholarships. The other thing is, international students don't qualify for the federal aid, so you cannot get the loans like the Americans do. Honor societies, like I joined the Alpha Lambda Delta and I was able to apply for a scholarship, which in the school chapter I was the only one who applied, and ended up getting $5,000 worth of scholarship. So you can look into things like that, because remember international students don't get the federal aid, so you cannot be able to qualify for that. And then the other thing, if you are in school for an year, you can actually ask your school whether they can be able to offer you an out-of-state waiver. The other thing you need to know, or I want to tell you about, is there's athletic scholarships. So I'm actually in Auburn University by the football stadium, so you can get athletic scholarships. You can play football, American football, you can play soccer, you can even do cross-country marathons. And since I'm not very good in this area, I'll bring the subject matter expert. I'll bring other scholars who I know who came here on the athletic scholarships. And please, if this is something that you're interested in, something hot is coming. As I bring some of the people who went through the scholarship, they're going to tell us about the process they went through and what the conditions are for the scholarships, and how you need to do in order to be fit and have. The other thing you need to know is that schools in America need you to take some tests for you to be admitted. For example, you need to take the test, the TOEFL, which is the test of English as a foreign language. And for some schools, if you cannot meet the required score that they want, they may actually admit you, but they'll have you enroll in a program known as English as a second language. The other thing is the SAT, which is a scholastic aptitude test. The different schools are going to have different tests. For example, if you want to go to an Ivy League school, you might need at least like a 1400 to a 1500. Whereas if you're going to a small school or a community college, they might ask you to get a 400 or a 800. So it just depends on the school you're going to. Sometimes some schools actually were waiving the tests such as the ACT and the SAT, especially during the COVID season. They were waiving them. I don't know about now, but the same thing I said, you'll have to contact your school and know whether they're going to waive it or not. And if you're going for the undergraduate, is the SAT and the ACT, but if you're going for graduate school, you might need to do the GRE, which is the Graduate Records Examination. This is mostly for the engineering and the STEM students. And if you want to do business courses like the MBA, you'll need to do the GMAT, which is a Graduate Management Admission Test. The other thing you need to know is accreditation. You should find out to know whether the course that you take or the major that you take from the school of your choice is going to be recognized by the home government or the country where you live if you decide to go. The other thing you need to know about is the living expenses, because some cities are very expensive, others are cheaper, especially if you want to go in the Midwest areas. The rent can be cheaper compared to if you're living in a big city like Chicago, LA, New York. Those are going to be expensive. You might be paying anywhere from like $1,500 for a studio apartment, whereas when you come to places like Carrollton, where is the school, Carrollton, Georgia, where I went to school, rent can be anywhere from $400 or $500 compared, in Atlanta you may be able to pay like $800. So the living expenses is maybe a big factor, because the cost of that is going to also determine the housing you're gonna be able to. Also, you need to know about the housing. You need to know whether you want to stay off campus or on campus, or if you have relatives in the US, you may decide to stay with them. For most schools, when you're a freshman, the school requires you to be in school or stay on campus for the first year. This is to be able to help you make friends, and you can do school activities that they do in the dorms, so that because it can be sometimes lonely if you stay off campus and you don't really know a lot of people. The northern states, it snows a lot, especially if you're living in Boston, New York area, Washington DC, Maryland, in the Seattle area by Washington State. Those areas tend to snow very much compared to southern states like Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. Especially Florida, there's very warm weather. If you're looking for like warm weather, you should look for schools in Florida. Places like California, also the weather is very good. But if you go, as I said, if you go to the northern places, it might be very snowing, and you might need to consider that. Something else you need to consider is the mode of transport where your school is at. In some places, the public transportation is very good, especially in New York. There's a subway where you can take you anywhere from your school to the restaurants. But when you come to places like Atlanta in Georgia, you may find out if you don't have a car, it might be very hard for you to move from place to place, so you might need to save up some money and be able to buy a car. Something else you need to know is that international students are only allowed to work on campus. So every school has on their website, they can tell you, or you can ask the ISAP officials, which you can ask the International Students Office where their job applications are, so you can apply for on-campus jobs. And international students are only allowed to work 20 hours a week, and these are jobs like you can be a tutor, you can be a computer lab assistant, or you can even serve in the dining. But this is just a short list that I made. There's a lot of jobs that you can apply, and when you apply for the jobs, you'll need a social security card. So the school officials, the international student school official, they're gonna guide you, or they can take you to the social security office where you can be able to get a social security card. And so the last thing you need to do is do your research. So after you do your research, you can be able to find like a list of 10 schools. You can make a short list, and then after you make the short list, you can be able to see which ones are favorable based on the things I told you in the video. You can look which ones match the qualities of what you may be looking for, and when you do that, you can apply to at least 5 schools so that you can see which schools you're going to be accepted, and after that, choose the school of your choice. And thank you very much for watching this video. Subscribe to the Biz Show.